Welcome to the No Nonsense Nutrition Podcast with Shredded Ed, Cardio Jonny, Paul C, Matt Mork Supertroll, and Brizzlehadley. The best infotainment show around, where you'll hear us joke, banter, and debunk all the nutritional myths you've heard time and time again, helping you get fit, healthy, and shredded. Welcome to the I can't do it. It's balls.
Welcome to the
Just start.
It's gone.
Welcome to the No Nonsense Nutrition
Nutrition Podcast. Yes, the No Nonsense Nutrition Podcast.
Let's just roll with that. Brett has absolutely destroyed it again for the 15th time. So we'll roll anyway.
I thought it was 25.
Well, yeah. It's been 15 minutes since we were supposed to start, and no one knows where Paul C is. So we've gone on without him.
He's off trying to catch some tuna for his burgers.
Yeah, well, after last week's comment, he doesn't deserve to be here any longer, and so we've removed him.
Right,
brutal but true.
It is true. Right, so today's topic is going to be, is a calorie a calorie? So I thought what we'd do is we'll go through and we'll talk about essentially the definition of a calorie, because I think it's useful for people to know what a calorie supposedly is. And I'll pick on one. I think we'll pick on one of you guys to give us the information magic. So, and then really kind of go through what it means. I'm hoping someone will get into, when they do define what a calorie is, a little bit about energy balance. So we'll talk about energy balance, how it's affected. Then we'll try and give the beautiful listeners something at least to take home and put into practice and action, because what's the point in knowing what a calorie is if you can't use it? So, any volunteers wants to go ahead?
I'll start off with what an actual calorie is.
Go on then.
Just a bloody measurement. Like, a calorie is a measurement of energy within a food. In fact, it's a measurement of energy, full stop. But, you know, people say a calorie isn't a calorie. A calorie is just a measurement. So a centimetre is a centimetre, a metre is a metre, a mile is a mile. You can't dispute that fact. So when people say a calorie isn't a calorie, immediately they're wrong, and immediately you shouldn't trust them.
So what do they actually mean when someone's saying a calorie is a calorie? So we know that a calorie is a unit or a measurement of energy, right? So, you know, I think, what's the actual definition?
Yeah, exactly. So when people say that, I think they're trying to say that calories don't matter, or it's not calories in versus calories out that determine weight loss or fat loss. It's something else. So they dispute the calorie in, calorie out, or what's that word now?
Thermogenesis.
No, not even thermogenesis. The balance, caloric balance. They dispute that, basically.
Okay.
Which makes
so basically, sorry, Ed, go on.
I was going to say, which instantly makes them Muppets.
Gimps.
the proper term.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, I mean, certainly, what's the term? Scientific law. So if, or it's basically been tried to be disproven so many times that calories aren't aren't in existence, or they aren't the main determining factor for, I suppose, body weight. And there's so much research out there which shows that, or show that we haven't been able to prove it wrong. So effectively, it's scientific law. So when you get these guys dispute the fact that calories doesn't matter, you got likes of Gary Taubes saying insulin is the reason for weight gain, blah blah blah. It's like, man, get with it. You know, read the data, read the research. It's been proved time and time again that calories actually matter and they exist. So,
yeah. I think the law of thermodynamics is what I was trying to get out a minute ago. And it exists, and it. You know, I get what people are trying to say when they say a calorie is not a calorie, but that message is probably quite confusing for the general public. You know, your body may deal with calories from certain macronutrients or foods slightly differently, but ultimately it is that calories in, calories out that is going to drive weight loss, fat loss, or weight gain. Obviously, if you are in an excess, which Jonny can tell you all about.
Well, being in a big excess for a fortnight and gaining 6 pounds.
Basically, you gain more weight than Brett did on his 2-week week holiday in Spain.
Yeah.
Turkey even.
Unbelievable. I think I had 4,000 yesterday, or 4,002, just because I could.
And you're not doing 20k steps a day like Brett was, are you?
No. The day I thought I was on a high step count, then Brett swiftly moved in and said, "No, it was a real step count."
No, you're shit. Sit down.
That's what we did. He did. He went and busted his ankle up, didn't he?
Yeah.
I just played football as well. That's why I did 20,000. Playing football with one leg.
That's a good effort, mate. So, Jonny, can you help explain to listeners then? So, calorie bands, obviously we all know that it affects, that's the main determining factor what affects your weight loss. So, can you give me some examples of why? So, for the listening, what affects the calorie balance equation?
Energy in, obviously. So, the food you eat, which is obviously it is the biggest thing you can control. So, but energy out is probably what fluctuates the most for people, because you got things like NEAT, which is I'm a fidgeter. I move around. That's NEAT. Walking around, exercise. There's loads of things that affect that, because when we eat food, then it actually takes calories to digest the food, so that can be classed as energy out as well. So there needs to be a balance. If you're eating too much, then obviously you're going to gain weight, despite what morons tell you. And if you undereat or you exercise and you burn more than you take in, then you're going to lose weight. It's literally as simple as that. But it isn't sexy, so people do not want to believe it, and they want to believe the insulin fairy or gluten or I don't know, whatever.
You mean to say putting coconut oil in my coffee this morning has not helped me lose weight?
I would probably say adding 200 to 300 calories to a black coffee is probably not the greatest thing in the world.
Damn it.
Despite what some very well-known individual would tell.
A biohacker, yeah.
I think the biggest kind of confusion comes from like clean calories and dirty calories, as people call them. And I mean, that's kind of, first of all, a little bit wrong, calling food clean and not clean. You have different micronutrient contents of food, you have different macronutrient contents of food. And when people are talking about Matt's just got his cat up on the camera.
I'm going to say it this week. He's got his pussy on his lap.
He's got his pussy out on camera.
It's the no nonsense nutrition mascot.
Unbelievable, Jeff.
What was I saying? Yeah, so I mean, foods that like people call, like, say, chocolate or something dirty food. It's like, well, no, it's just got a high calorie content for a small volume of food, and I think that's why people kind of take things wrong and say, oh yeah, you should eat that because it's not clean or it's dirty or whatever term they want to give it. And I just think that confuses a lot of people. It just has a different health properties, I suppose, within that food. And chocolate, it probably isn't going to add a lot of health benefits to your life, whereas eating, I don't know, like a bowl of vegetables may do. So I think that's kind of one of the big areas.
Yeah, I think that leads on to a slight tangent, but a good one, where people, let's talk about the overweight population, for example. They confuse healthy foods, so eating healthily, with health. So, like, what I mean by that is that one of the biggest drivers of health is related to body weight. So if you're carrying excess weight, and even regardless, even if it is muscle, there is a drain, but largely body fat. If you're carrying a lot of excess body fat, that changes almost, or a lot of health markers negatively. So even if you were, and this is where the argument comes to, people say, would you be healthy in 2,000 calories of Mars bars or 2,000 calories of chicken, broccoli and rice? But short term, if someone was to lose weight, the health benefits of that would probably outweigh that couple of months of eating the nutrient dense food. Now, obviously, no one would ever recommend that, but why can't you just have a balance where you have, majority of your diet nutrient dense foods, and then you have that small treat, or you have an X amount of quote unquote junk food. I mean, look at Brett's Instagram, for example. We only see one side of his dietary intake usually. He tries to balance it out every now and then, but yeah, I think people miss the point around you will become a lot healthier just by losing a significant amount of body fat.
I absolutely think you're right there, mate. I think that probably the biggest influence on somebody's health is going to be their weight in the majority. Obviously, exceptions aside, illnesses and etc. But yeah, I think if you took an overweight person and said, right, you now need to become healthy, you need to eat plenty of, or like your diet has to consist solely of fruits, vegetables, lean meats, blah, 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 all the so-called healthy stuff. I actually think you'd have a far better success of getting there, all of the things that we would measure to determine how healthy they are, blood markers, etc., by getting their weight down ahead of eating.
Well, yeah, if you think so the health risk of being overweight, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, stroke, cancer, kidney problems, and just that, they are like a lot of the health markers people measure, and you will reduce your risk of all those things. Like, it's not even like a small percentage or anything. You will quite significantly reduce your risk of those problems if you reduce, I don't know, from being clinically obese to obese, or obese to healthy range. Each time you step down into BMI gets a lot of bad press, but actually for the Gen Pop, it's pretty good. Each time you move down, you are reducing your risk inherently in all those things. It's not like, someone saying, eat some avocados, or I think someone posted in our group, asparagus is a superfood, it reduces all the risk of these. And really, you can't measure that. Whereas with significant fat loss, it's been shown time and time again in countless studies and real world that people who are leaner and aren't overweight don't suffer as much from those problems. And actually, it's really good. There's a good book by Renaissance Periodization, I think it is. Is that what they're called? RP anyway. So, it's called What is Healthy Eating, and basically it assigns percentages to the things that impact health. So, and again, they've got a triangle or a pyramid, because everyone loves a pyramid, and it goes up with the biggest things that impact your health. And the biggest driver of health at the bottom is calories, because calories influence body weight, and body weight is the biggest determinant of health you can influence through nutrition. So, yes, healthy foods are important, incredibly important. We're not saying don't eat them, but when people talk about health, I think we just need to, focus on, especially when dealing with very obese people or overweight people, then, getting them to lose that weight should be the primary driver. If that involves eating primarily junk food initially, then that's fine, because you can move someone from, having, let's go extreme, 4 Dominoes a day down to 2 Dominoes a day. And if they're that big, they will lose weight, and they're immediately going to be healthier. Despite not having...
That sounds like a great diet, a really good diet. I like that.
But yeah, so I think that, if you've dealing with people with eating primarily junk food, you can't just say to them, from now on, you're just going to eat chicken, broccoli, and rice. Go on, off you go. Like, you've been smashing that pizzas and Dominoes for the last 12 years. Sorry, but that was a mini side rant around health and healthy foods.
On that, though, it's small changes, isn't it? So if you're sitting here listening thinking, I know my diet is a lot of junk food or quote unquote bad food. If you are eating a takeaway a night, you are eating loads of chocolate and crisps through the day, you're getting maybe a sandwich for lunch or something, and breakfast just like loads of toast and cereal and stuff like that. I mean, little baby step changes. Don't think like you have to go and change everything in your world and start doing like 10 hours of cardio a day, and you're eating like literally, like you say, like chicken, broccoli and rice or salads for every meal, because that is nowhere near attainable either. I know this is kind of going a little bit off calories, but it's just kind of highlighting Matt's point really of just, make little changes. Like I say, take one thing out, or just reduce one thing, and don't don't try and change your whole world overnight, because you are not going to stick to it. And it's proven time and time again, it doesn't really matter what dieting method you use. Obviously, so long as you're in a calorie deficit and you're trying to lose weight, it's the diet you can stick to is the best diet for you. It's not 5-2, it's not low carb or low fat or whatever you want to do. It's so long as you're in a calorie deficit and so long as you can stick to it for a sustained period of time, that is going to be the best diet for you. Back to calories.
Back to calories.
I kind of think that is about calories, right?
Yeah.
It's all linked to that kind of thing. So it was a nice tangent anyway, when it off of healthy foods.
Yeah, absolutely another topic for another day to go into more detail, I think.
Yeah,
Definitely.
So calorie. So just let's bring it back to the good old calorie, which I like to obviously consume as many as I can of, especially when I'm in an all-inclusive hotel. Tight wad, like to get the most out of things, don't we now? So it's unit measurement, we know that. So are there any differences in how calories are made up? And obviously I'm just going to, for the listeners, just refer to macronutrients. So can someone want to go into explain the differences between the different macronutrients and how they might be processed or affected by your body? Not too much science. Let's not go too geeky here, but maybe just a brief outline of how, although we know a unit of calorie is a calorie, like a centimetre is a centimetre, some might be processed differently in your body.
Maybe if I just outline what each are there are calories, and then we'll let Jonny do the processing, because he's Mr. Study. But yeah, like you've got three main macronutrients, right? So you've got protein, fats, and carbs. 4 if you want to count that one.
No,
Yeah.
well, you can for the listeners.
I'll let you talk about that one. So the ones that people worry about anyway: protein, fats, and carbs. Protein is per gram of protein is 4 calories. Per gram of carbohydrate is 4 calories. Per gram of fat, it's 9 calories. So immediately you can see already there, if you're measuring out in grams, there's a disparity between protein, fats, and carbs. Obviously, loading up on all the fats is going to lead to an excess of calories.
Less if you're Ben Cooper, though, because it's 8 in fat.
There we go.
Can we call out, right? I tell you what, Ed, when we repeat this back, you're gonna have to just beep it out, mate.
Yeah, I've had enough in my time. Anyway, and then did you want to either you or Ed want to talk about the fourth one?
Don't mind going into it. So
I'm the least appropriate, bear in mind that I don't consume any of it, but okay.
the way I was feeling yesterday, I don't really want to talk about it, but so the fourth macronutrient is alcohol, and that's why if you were to ever track alcohol on any sort of tracking device that tracks calories, it will take it off the calories, but it won't take it off your carbs, your fats, or your protein. And there's 7 calories a gram of alcohol. So if you're having something that's quite strong, obviously there's more calories in that, and then the volume might be smaller. So so something like a white spirit shot is probably lower in calories, whereas if you have something that's starting to get mixed with things as well, so summer everybody loves like fruity ciders, but these are the highest in calorie pretty much. So just something to be aware of, that alcohol does count, and if you drink a lot of alcohol, that could put you in a calorie surplus and make you fat.
More likely, let's be honest.
Yeah,
because we all know Dangerous Dave down the pub on a Friday night who can sink 10 pints of alcohol, which, you know, calorie content is probably the daily intake for a lot of people in 10 pints.
Yeah, and then you've got to bear in mind that the food intake associated with drunkenness is immediately through the roof, because you head straight to the kebab shop and you ain't getting grilled chicken. You're getting doner, you're getting chips, you're going to get cheese on top of those chips.
Side pizza.
You're going in. I don't know, have you always not drunk, Brett?
Not always. I used to go through the usual sort of kind of thing as a teenager growing up. I'll be honest, it's weird. I know we're going off on a tangent bit, but alcohol just doesn't do it for me. I have it, and as much as I like the taste of it, I like the taste of a like a cherry vanilla Coke just as much.
Coke zero vanilla, yeah.
No, cherry vanilla, mate. I just thought I'd drop that in there, you know.
Yeah. I tend to agree. I drink on and off, not masses. Ed, I think you work in a wine shop, so you probably drink loads.
I have to have a little tipple here and there.
Yeah, I don't think Jonny drinks either. But I mean,
No.
I think we should do an episode at some point about getting drunk, not fat. How you can incorporate some of that into your diet, you know, because I think Ed, you probably the most shredded of all of us at one point, other than me in 5 weeks' time. But you had alcohol during your cutting phases, right?
I did, yeah. I mean, not towards the end, just because calories were so low, I couldn't really afford to spend calories on alcohol and not sort of die of starvation in my head. So, yeah, I mean, it's just about moderation. It's about keeping an eye on it. Right, okay, I'm going to have a gin and tonic. That's like 70, 80 calories. So that's 70, 80 calories that I've got to come out the rest of my day. Like, it's why I was tracking my food when I was doing my contest prep, and you know, it didn't upset things. I did make a joke the other day that I was going to go on a gin diet for my next show and have a gin and tonic every single night, just to prove that you can get shredded and still drink alcohol every single night. But obviously that's all accounted for, and it's not a case of I'm having that on top of what I'm eating, because that may well pull me out of a calorie deficit and stop me losing weight. So, but yeah, I mean, it's not going to affect things so long as the calories are accounted for.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So yeah, there's those. Is alcohol technically a macronutrient? I wouldn't like to even associate anything nutritious with alcohol.
No, I don't. The thing is, like, alcohol is obviously, isn't it? I am right. I'm pretty sure I'm right in thinking. Obviously, this metabolizes before any of the other macronutrients when you consume it. So obviously, the way your example, or the example that we said about Dangerous Dave and his 10 pints down the pub, he then goes and gets all that takeaway junk takeaway food. And then obviously he's not even started on metabolizing that stuff until he's got through 2,000 calories worth of alcohol.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that kind of puts into perspective, really, is how people, I suppose, can quite easily consume that sort of stuff and not realize the effects or the outcome it actually has on your body weight, health, etc., etc.
It was the knock on from that as well the next day. Like, you're hanging out your arse and you're in bed all day. You have a greasy breakfast and then like you just eat crap all day. You sat there with like the full fat
you've got to line that
Coke.
stomach, bro.
Domino's.
Yeah, exactly. So
There's a local pizza shop actually, and I know this from my bigger days, that has a Donna pizza, which is incredible. Like pizza with Donna meat on, just amazing. Anyway,
Sounds horrendous.
what a nutritionist.
we've all been there.
Right, so I'm going to bring this back to the calorie equation. So calories in, calories out equals weight loss, gain, maintenance, etc., etc. So we know that obviously it's a bit more complicated than that. The calorie equation, calories in versus calorie out, is a bit more dynamic. You affect one side, it affects the other. So let's bring it back to give the listeners something to actually take home then. So what can we do or manipulate in terms of the calories in, or start the calories inside, to help people reach, and we're going to assume weight loss or fat loss goals, right? Yeah. So Jonny, go, give us some tips on what specifics they can action.
Food swaps, easy to start with. Easy things are like, if you drink 5 or 6 teas and coffees a day with 2 sugars in and milk, right? If you have full fat milk and 2 sugars, you could change that. Just keep it simple. The skim milk and 1 sugar, and you've probably saved a couple of 100 calories instantly. You haven't really done anything. Things like energy drinks, Monster drinks are massively prevalent now through any age. There we are. There's one there, and that is the right one. So if you're drinking 2 energy drinks a day, which is a normal, the full fat versions are like 200 calories a can. You drink 2 of them a day, that's 400 calories of nothing. You go to 0 calorie, well, technically like 10 calories in it per can. You've just saved pretty much 400 calories. So it's little food swaps like that are easy. I mean, even going lower fat, not using as much oil in your
spray oils
in your coffee, Ed.
Disclaimer: I have never ever
it,
done that.
So Ed knows about calorie balance, but don't go put in oil in your coffee or butter or cream or anything like that, because things like that quickly add up. Don't drink your calories if you can help it. We just talked about alcohol, so if you want to lose weight, you probably want to be limiting alcohol, really.
That's 3 great tips, mate. That's 3 great tips. Should we let Ed have a go?
Moving more, moving more. So increasing your output. So I mean, if you increased your output enough, you probably wouldn't have to change your intake at all. But I mean, if you do both, then you're going to get results quicker. So walking about more. If you live in a city, get off the train at the stop beforehand. I think Matt's giving me evils because that's what he does. Just park further away from where you need to go to. Park at the other end of the car park. Make a point of going out for a 5, 10, 15-minute walk at lunchtime. Things like that. Just basically just moving more. The more you move, the more calories you're going to expend. And if you give yourself a target, this is why things like Fitbits are really good. Give yourself a target for the day. Right, I know that on an average day I hit 6,000 steps. My target is now going to be 10,000 steps. That way you are increasing your output more than what it was before. So you will utilize more calories.
Good. Matt?
Yeah, I know it's a bit of a tangent. I'll touch on Ed's point that I think that part, like walking and stuff that isn't really deemed as exercise, is like one of the biggest things that I changed that led to a lot of fat loss. Like, yes, you can go to the gym and you're there for like half hour, 45 minutes, an hour. The calorie expenditure you're going to do there isn't massive. Like, it's, it helps and it will contribute, but you're not going to be burning 7,000 calories or 600 calories for a HIIT class or whatever it is. It's not even true HIIT for an hour, but anyway, you need to look at your overall day. And like Ed said, I always get off, stop earlier. I go to a different train station and I get a walk in the morning and stuff like that. But that's a huge contributor to calorie burn. And you probably get more out of that than you would going to the gym and sitting on the treadmill or running on the treadmill for X amount of time. Obviously, you will get beneficial.
You're not supposed to sit on the treadmill. Yeah. That's where you're going wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. At the end of a HIIT thing. But yeah, so my advice with calories is track them for a while. Like, I think you'll be surprised when people start tracking calories and they track calories accurately. They don't just go for the lowest calorie option when they've searched, which is common. Always go high. Like, when you start tracking foods, you start to really appreciate portion sizes and how many calories are in things. Like, we were talking about it yesterday. I had half an avocado for my brunch, because middle class, London, wherever. Brunch, yeah. I knew you were going to like that, Johnny.
Who don't get brunch in Wales?
FYI, Johnny thinks anyone outside of Wales is posh. But yeah, so and the lads were like, "Oh, that's a waste of calories." Like, when you look at an avocado, people smash back 2 of those sometimes for lunch, and that's like 400 odd calories, and most of it's fat. Whereas people would deem that to be healthy and think automatically it's low calorie. So when you start tracking foods, you start to understand, foods that are higher in calories, foods that are lower in calories. You start to become a bit more clever with, using those calories, because you don't want to waste them on large portions of something that's, small portions of something that's very calorie dense. So as you track, you become more calorie aware. You start to understand what's in foods, and you can really identify where you're overeating. Important to remember to track drinks and stuff like that as well, because often liquid calories are where a lot of stuff comes from. For example, one lady I know, or used to deal with a few years ago, was like, I've cut out all sugar. And she was tracking, she was under her calories, gaining weight. I had no idea what was going on. I was like, look, can you just send me a photo of everything you've eaten today? And she sent, I was getting Costa mugs through, but like the big ones. I said, well, what, 6 of them? And I was like, okay, what was in there? And it was vanilla lattes. So, take it from that wheel. But that, again, people just don't realise sometimes that, because it's a drink, they don't assume the calories of it.
Yeah.
So as you track, you start to understand that stuff.
Yeah. I think that's a good tip, because I think as you track, and certainly I don't know what you guys are like when you kind of work with your clients, but one of the first things I do is just get them to obviously keep a food diary or log it in my fitness pal or whatever. And like I overstress the amount of times, almost what you just said, is just be as accurate and normal as possible. Do not change anything, because we want to really establish what your baseline is now in terms of what you're eating, how much you're consuming stuff. And it's almost impossible for that to happen, because people just almost by default do exactly what you've just said. You start tracking, becoming a bit more accountable and aware of what's in foods. All of a sudden, they start making better choices. And you're like, don't do that. I don't want you to do that. I want you to just track care and eat.
Well, it's funny you say that, right? Because one of the tricks, it's not a trick, but you bang someone on tracking and they lose weight. It's like, but what have you changed? Like, and automatically, sorry, you were going to say?
No, I say you're right. It's just automatically people are just saying, actually, I'm going to go for that, I don't know, low calorie wrap rather than the 4 Krispy Kreme donuts I was going to usually have. So
straight away, the accountability, isn't it? I've had loads of clients where you start off on saying, oh yeah, just write down a food diary. Don't even like track the calories, just write down what you're eating. And like we've literally done that for months because it's just worked so well. Just because they've been like, oh, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, because like he in his head he saw that it was high calorie, and like we lost like nearly 10 kilos in a couple of months just through him making better choices, because he was then accountable to me, who may or may not have told him off.
And that's a mad amount of weight as well.
Yeah, it was insane.
It might be worth just. I'm unconscious of time, but it might be worth touching on, because a lot of people say, well, calorie tracking is inaccurate, and the packets of food are inaccurate. And I guess my point to that would be, yes, it's inaccurate, but it's consistently inaccurate, right? People eat the same foods. If you look at my fitness pal, like my week, Monday to Friday, is boring. It is a quarter of a chicken, 2 Greek yogurts, and something else, like in the day, like religiously. So yes, there will be some variance in those foods, but it's enough that if you're tracking and you're in a deficit, you're going to outweigh that. Like, it's accurate enough to facilitate weight loss or gain, basically.
Yeah. Well, even if you had the same food, let's just go with a ready meal, right? Just goes whatever, because it's man-made or whatever. Even if it's low one week in terms of actual calories, the next week is what it should be, and the week after it's over. It still balances out over time, so it's still a good way of tracking food, because it still works, even though the calories might not be exactly the same every time. It still balances out, and over the long term, it works. It's like, I think people misunderstand that. Just because calories matter doesn't mean you have to track MyFitnessPal for the rest of your life. The calories still matter, even though you don't track. It's like people who say, "Oh yeah, I don't track calories, but I lose weight, or can't be calories." Well, it's still calories. You just don't track them. You're just aware of what you're eating.
I put a post on my personal Facebook during the week, didn't I, saying about, you may think it's odd to weigh your foods and track the amount of calories you eat, but your body tracks them regardless whether you do or don't. Yeah. So, and I think that's quite a profound thought almost, and say, well, actually, you might think that I don't believe in calories, but unfortunately, it's been proven they are there and they happen, and the way your body uses them. So,
what's the latest one I heard? I can't remember what it's called. Oh, if you just cut calories, you just lose loads of muscle. You need to do something else, and it's not about calories. If you are a moron, honest to God.
Yeah, I think actually, I'm just sitting here. I've just grabbed a book, because there's a couple of things I think would make good podcasts. Which is, the next one we should probably talk about how you can diet and not lose muscle mass, because obviously I'm on quite a high deficit, and I doubt that I've lost much, if any, muscle. Maybe some. I didn't have much to lose in the first place, but
Sam beat me to it.
I can see you teeing yourself up for that, so I want to get that in first. But yeah, I think that would be a good, talking about how, and that kind of leads on to more of the macronutrients, how you vary your intake around macronutrients, and how that can have effect on weight, so fat and or lean tissue distribution and stuff like that. And maybe just a podcast on how, tracking some of the mistakes, how to track when you eat out, that kind of stuff, along with alcohol, obviously, would make some good listener podcasts, I think. Yeah. So yeah.
Right, I'm going to bring this. So I'm going to bring this back to just my one tip.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Yeah, just because obviously you guys got to have a go, so I'm going to have a go. I'm going to bring it back to the calories, calories inside. So increase your protein. I think it's just one of the biggest things, the biggest effect. I think Jonny mentioned on the obviously in the introduction stuff, but the benefits of increasing your protein to satiety are huge. So eating more protein, you'll feel fuller, you'll be more satisfied when you eat, and effectively you'll eat less. So, and I think it brings it quite nicely around to all of the tips that we had. Other than obviously, I suppose Ed's, yours is more around the calories outside. But basically, the point of all of these is there's no magic bullet to any of the tips or anything like that. They all work on the same principle of the fact that you're just eating less calories, therefore you will lose weight. You know, there's no specialty in the methods. Ed, you mentioned that there are 100 ways to skin a cat almost. That all of these methods work as long as they put you in a calorie deficit, because they all then adhere to the same principle, which is calories in less than calories out.
Cool.
So, Ed, did you have that the feature this week?
Feature. So we were thinking of as we're all have no lives.
No names.
No names. As we all have no life and we spend our whole life on the internet, and that's how we met. Not on Grindr or anything, but
wasn't it? Oh, shit.
Well, that's where I found you.
My girlfriend says, "Oh, you're internet friends." Yeah, we are all internet friends.
So we spend our lives on the internet talking to each other because we live in the 5 corners of the earth. We thought we'd come up with the feature of things we've trolled this week on the internet. So this is basically where people have put out just things that are they have a reputation. I'm not trolling my mother online because she thinks sugar's bad for you. I just do that in person. It's people with a following who should know better, and you would like to think they know better because they have thousands of followers, and they basically just spout nonsense. It's wrong. It's completely wrong. So we feel as though their viewers need to be told that they are reading rubbish, and we put them right. So things we trolled on the internet this week, and I think
have we got the jingle?
There is no jingle. Have you come up with one?
We need a jingle for next time.
Things we trolled on the internet this week.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, I forgot about
that. But before we jump into that, I just want to make a quick point around. Yeah, people say, "Oh, trolling," and it's got negative connotations, but actually, I think that a lot of the information people put out, and a lot of their readers and stuff like that, where it is so incorrect that, if you can get 1 or 2 people to get turned around because they've read a well-balanced response to stuff, it's not being nasty, it's not being mean, you're not being insulting, although sometimes they do turn insulting to you. It's more a discussion, and there's actually a few people where I've chatted to and they've changed their view. And the reason I'm quite passionate about, debating or correcting things, or not necessarily, I'm not always right, but I'm happy to have a debate and my view can be changed. But I think it's because I was that bro who thought a lot of that BS before, from my background, it was gut healing and adrenal fatigue, putting butter in your coffee, all those stupid things I've done or said. So, people may have trolled me back in the day. And in fact, I think it was Gordon Greenhorn. I had a run-in with him a few times before when I was a bit bro. And actually, he posted up something that's changed my mind totally and brought me round to the evidence-based crowd, along with him and Martin, actually, it was, back in the day. But I don't think it's necessarily negative. We're not going on and insulting people. We just want clear debate. They've got a good reason for it and they can prove it. Then, yeah, I might learn something. But
yeah, that's a really good point, mate, because I think there is a big difference between what people think trolling is and what, if you're not a dick, what it really is, I guess. Because obviously, generally you'd ask questions, you try and probe, and your sole outcome is to kind of help educate and generate debate and discussion, as you say. And like you said, I think, although a lot of things we know we're right on, just I guess because of the people that we kind of associate with and the things we learn, and I suppose the education stuff that we're going through as well. But that being said, I would also say that the majority of people here, if given evidence or the right rationale, would be prepared to change their mind about stuff. Yeah. If it was to be to be seen that actually, yeah, do you know what, that might not have been what I thought, right? Or because we've all been there, like you say, we've all been back in the day thinking stuff like, I used to think I had to eat my carbohydrates post-workout because, backloading, bro. That's, they were used for muscle gain and nothing else. So I could eat pizza and junk after workout and it's all magically go to my muscles and nowhere else. It's that kind of scenario really where in hindsight now, but given with the evidence, maybe I was wrong. So yeah, I think it's a very fair point. We do ask questions. You do kind of, you are friendly, and what's the phrase you used before? Ease yourself in gently. You don't kind of go in and say, dude, you're a moron. What you're saying is all BS. So yeah, it's a good point to make. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, with the caveat, there's two things that really, and they're not really nutrition. They are kind of nutrition related. When someone says something about nutrition and cancer, like don't do chemo, do this nutrition thing instead, they are fully open to abuse, and they should be. Like, that is lowest on the low. I cannot stand those people. Usually have a huge following and they're selling a natural product, even though it's Big Pharma making all the money. So they're fair game. And then obviously the anti-vaccine crowd, but I'm not even going to go anywhere near that.
Anyway, okay. So do we...
Jonny did yesterday.
Just look at my profile. That's all you need to know.
Go on in, Ed.
No. Go on, mate.
Ed, you're going to have to drop off. So what have you trolled this week? Let's go with one thing and let's talk about why.
So I think the big one, relating it round to the calories the calorie is not a calorie. There was a large followed social media outlet this last week or so. They posted a comparison of a Mars bar against a steak, and said calories aren't the same, these foods will not do the same. And what did it say? It's like you can eat 2 Mars bars and it's gonna, what is it, you're gonna basically store it all, but then the steak's gonna be absolutely fine. And you should basically pick a steak over 2 Mars bars. And I mean, my point first on it was just like, how are these even comparable? One's full of carbs and a few fats, the other one's full of fats and protein. Like, they're two completely different things. I'm not going to go have a steak pre-workout and nothing else, but I might have 2 Mars bars, and I regularly do. And that was kind of my point. And the fact that the opening line on the written bit, it was a nice infographic. It was made really well, but just the content was bollocks.
The maths was wrong as well.
And
I'm
they
not
had
sure
the
it was made that well. Yeah, calories weren't even correct. No way. There's something like 1 gram of fat on it or something, if I remember.
And the opening line was, a calorie is not a calorie. And then as soon as I put my thing on, and a lot of other people jumped on it and started slating it, he tried a disclaimer himself and saying, I'm not saying that a calorie isn't the same as another calorie. Yet his opening line was, a calorie is not a calorie. Just people.
Yeah, I think when you have it's fine to discuss kind of in depth, like physiological and biological response and stuff, like in maybe a closed forum. But when you're dealing with Gen Pop, the simpler you can make it, the easier it is, right? Like, I think that kind of leads on. People overcomplicate stuff to sell their method or their way, which is probably why me and Jonny don't make a huge deal of money, because it's not, what we're selling isn't sexy, it isn't unique, it isn't like magical. It's just basically what your grandma said, or your granddad said. That's what they used to say to me. Yeah, just eat less. But people try and overcomplicate it so they can sell a product or a method on the back of it. Which, if you've got a big general public following, you need to be aware of, making broad sweeping statements with no context, I think.
The sexier it sounds, the more BS it likely has.
Basically, yeah.
You heard it here first.
I didn't troll that one because I'm going nowhere near that one, but yeah.
For the listeners, Matt is very
risk averse.
Yeah, risk averse. He's very afraid of lawsuits. So, which this so-called, I don't know if you describe. Can it be described as a social media outlet? Was it just because?
Yeah, we'll call it that. We'll call it that rather than anything else.
Yeah, I was going to say that brand of social media outlet tends to have a bit of a reputation for not liking negative press, and so # lawsuit.
Yeah. All right, I think we'll end it there, shall we, boys? Or
solid podcast.
I just
hit that button.
Bye,
just wanna-
folks. We'll see
No,
you
no,
all
before-
next
Oh,
week.
hang on,
Before we hit that button, I just want to apologise to all of the 2 listeners that we've got on behalf of Paul not attending.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You know, he should be here, the lad, but he's a Larry let down. He's, like you say, he's probably off trying to marinate some tuna and some avocado to put in some sort of weird burger concoction.
Yeah. I think he's probably trying to reduce his cortisol by not getting up so early. But he doesn't know the rise and grind life. That's the problem.
No,
He's not a hustler. He's from the southwest, isn't he? So, I mean, he's probably like rolling in a field or something, isn't he?
Cool.
Right, okay, we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to the No Nonsense Nutrition Podcast. We'll speak to you all next week.